Put it rightly, I mean, a lot of things happened in the last years, and there is also a famous speech from Mrs. Lautenschläger, which is coining the term the age of great volatility. So we are now in an era where inflation is back. We have experienced the highest inflation rates in the US, but also in the Eurozone since the 60s or 70s. And therefore, of course, after this, I would say, decade where we were fighting deflation, and we had this ultra-expansionary monetary policy, we are now back in a regime where the central banks do have to fight inflation and have to take care about price stability. And as you put it rightly, it started with COVID, with fiscal policy, with monetary policy. In addition to that, we had all these supply chain issues, which propelled prices higher. And then, of course, we had the Ukraine war, which then caused a shock on the supply side, and thus energy prices skyrocketed. The oil price was last year at 140 US dollars. Now it's back to 75. And on the 20th April in 2020, there was one day where the oil price, some of you might know, it was in negative territory. So from minus 37 per barrel up to north 140. So this demonstrates how crazy markets were in the last years. And now we're in the situation that central banks are fighting inflation, as price stability is a serious topic. But we do think that central banks are, I would say, in their last innings with regards to their interest rate hikes. So we do think that the Fed is done, and now markets will be pricing in the first rate cuts. So we do think that beginning of 2024, the Fed will start to cut rates again. We do think that the ECB will have another 2 rate increases to then 4.25, but then the ECB should be done here as well. So monetary policy was a big burdening factor last year for equities, and therefore also all the growth stocks underperformed significantly. And since the beginning of the year, especially, growth was performing nicely, not only because of this artificial intelligence hype, which we'll be discussing later on, but also because markets are pricing in this Fed pivot. And as monetary policy is no longer being a major headwind, and as we do think that we would just experience a mild recession and a soft recovery towards 2024, and also earnings do look quite sound when it comes to major indices, we do think that equity markets do have further potential to the upside, and we do think that the macro environment in general is quite good for equities at the moment.